My name is Alexius, and I am the host of Gazing Through the Haze. So for season 2, we are back and we're on YouTube. Season 1 can be listened to on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen to your podcast. But for season 2 and all the seasons to come, we are right here on YouTube. So make sure you click the link in my bio to subscribe. Turn your post notifications on because you do not want to miss when I drop a video. The theme for season 2 is keeping it real and growing closer to God. During season 2, I will be giving personal testimonies. I'll be having Bible study on here. I'll be talking about all my trials and tribulations and all of the lessons that God has taught me and that I'm currently still learning in this new season of my life. So I'm super appreciative to have you here. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Gazing Through the Haze and my personal Instagram at _Jordan Alexis. As always, all of this information will be in the description box, so make sure you check it out. I definitely want to be able to grow and expand and really connect with you guys one-on-one. Also, follow me on TikTok at Jordan Alexis because I do post a lot over there, but that's enough chatter. Welcome to Gazing Through the Haze, Season 2, Episode 1, God Deliver Me from Evil. So you guys are going to have to bear with me. This is really raw and uncut. I am not a YouTuber. I never saw myself on YouTube, so I'm not tech savvy. Don't come over here expecting, a whole blown out production. I am very new and I will be learning as I go. So I definitely have my phone here to just kind of keep me on track. I wrote some notes down about some stuff that I definitely feel like I want to include in this video. So like I said, bear with me. I am usually behind the camera, on the computer, audio only. So this is completely new for me to be sitting in front of the camera, but I know I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So let's get into it. So a lot of people always ask me, Jordan, like, you turned your life around, now you're living for God. Why do you have to be so loud about whatever you had to give up or whatever you had to stop doing in order to get closer to him? And my answer is that, y'all, I used to be loud when I was in sin. So it's only right for me to be even louder now that I have given my life to God. So I'm sorry if this offends you, if anything said in this video convicts you, or whatever said makes you not want to tune back in, but I have an obligation to God to share my story, share his word, share how he brought me through and how he delivered me, like I said. So I'm not here to please man. I'm here to please God. And if you're the same way, make sure that you tune in and keep watching. In this video, I will be very honest and candid about my experience being delivered from evil. I will be talking about spiritual kingdoms, demonic spirits and entities, homosexuality, sexual abuse, mental and emotional abuse, sororities and denouncing, and a lot of other things. If you find yourself triggered, please step away, or like I said, if anything offends you to the point where you don't watch another video, I'm glad that you made it this far and good luck. God bless you and I wish you all the best. Also, if you do find yourself offended or convicted by anything I said in this video, pray to God and ask him, what is he trying to show you? God often speaks through other people when he's trying to get us to realize something in ourselves. So if you're feeling convicted, that's a good sign. I really urge you to take it back to God and pray over everything. So I want to begin kind of with my upbringing. I grew up in a church. My granddad was actually a deacon of the church. So going to church was definitely not an unfamiliar thing for me. I got baptized in 2015 in August. So I'm not good at math, so I don't know how long ago that has been. But immediately after I got baptized, guys, the devil snatched me up quick. Looking back, I definitely wish that I gotten baptized at a later time so that I could really understand what I was getting myself into, but I don't regret anything because God is using it all for my testimony. Me being baptized at that time and immediately falling into sin and falling away from God was all a part, I guess, of the plan, because now I've done a completely 180. I've given my life back to Christ, and I can be able to talk about all the things that I've learned and experienced to you guys. So the first spirits that I now know were attached to me were definitely the spirit of anger, the spirit of offense, the spirit of rejection or orphan spirit, and the spirit of homosexuality. So I'm just going to be completely candid. I am adopted. My dad's mom, which is my grandma, adopted me when I was a very young girl. So growing up, I never had and still don't have a talking relationship with my biological mother. And that caused me to have a lot of abandonment wounds. I was always kind of looking and yearning from approval, whether that was through older adults or friendships or relationships, because in my head, I'm just kind of like, if my own mom could leave me, what could stop other people from leaving me as well? So the type of person that I was is that although I craved like that connection with people, I also was the type to push people away very, very quickly. And with me also suffering from a spirit of anger, it was just kind of like putting firecrackers in a dumpster and poof, like I would go from 0 to 10 in a minute. I would get defensive and be like, I don't need you, I don't need anybody, X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 blah. I'm sure some of you guys say the same thing, but those are some of the spirits that definitely were with me and stuck with me through a large portion of my life. So I held a lot of resentment towards my mom, and I also held a lot of resentment for other people as well. Forgiveness really was not one of my strong suits, and like I said, anything that's not used to glorify God, any spirit that we have that isn't used to glorify God, then it's ultimately pushing the devil's agenda, right? So me battling from lust, battling from sexual immorality, battling from homosexuality, battling with the spirit of death and depression and suicide and anger and just, y'all, so much stuff was attached to me that it's like, it's really scary. And sometimes we go throughout life and society has just conditioned us to be like, that's just what it is. That's what the devil pushes through society. You know, you're just like this because of X, Y, and Z. You're just like this because of whatever, whatever. But it all is like a cover up for us not to be able to realize like, no, this is what you have put on me that I have been harboring for however long. But this is not the person that God designed me to be. God did not design me to be a homosexual. God did not design me to deal with lust and with sexual immorality, which is the only sin that goes against our own self. Right? He did not design me to be an angry person, an unforgiving person, someone who was so quick to anger, so quick to speak, you know, quick-tempered, lethal tongue. He did not design me to have spirits of suicide and want to take my own life, the life that he gave me. God knew exactly who I was before I was even created in the womb, before I was even on this earth, right? So for me, being able to recognize that I just had so many negative spirits attached to me, that's definitely where God first sat me down and began to prune me. So in January of this year, I was in a relationship. I was in a homosexual relationship, and things just started, something in the atmosphere was just not right. I got a yearning to work on my relationship with God and really take it serious, y'all. For so many times I'd be like, yeah, I'm trying to get closer to God. I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to stop doing that. And it would never happen. I would probably pray consistently for about 2 weeks. And then I'd be out at the parties, twerking on top of cars, getting blacked out, drunk, you know, giving my body up to people, you know, just so many different things, guys, that I never really just took it as seriously as I was supposed supposed to. But in January, something changed, y'all. My heart, something changed. And I feel like in January of this year, this was the first time I heard God speak to me. He told me, your time is up. And that just kept replaying in my head. I'm like, my time is up. Like, my time is up. I'm like, oh Lord. I'm like, I hope I'm not about to die. Like, what? You know, what do you mean? Like, my time is up. And I went into this like time period, guys. I stayed up maybe the third week of January. I stayed up for 7 days straight. And it was because my soul was just so unsettled. I would stay up and I would just think about everything that I've done in my life, every person that has encountered, that I've encountered, every person I've had relations with, everything I've done that wasn't pleasing to God. I just stayed up. And for 7 days straight, all of that stuff just repeated in my mind. And I was just kind of like, this is my wake-up call. I gave my life to Christ. I've been baptized in the water before, but I strayed so far away from him, and I thought that, it's cool. It's all right. I'm going to just give my life back to God when I'm older. I'm young and turned. I want to be out and having fun and X, Y, and Z. But God was like, no. Like, I'm telling you right now, you are about to have to turn back to me, because I am about to put you through so much where you literally will have nobody but me to turn and run back to, y'all. And that is exactly what he did. A couple days after, I stayed up for this whole week, I just got the thought, and I was like, I gotta break up. I was like, I have to end this relationship that I'm in, because I have a praying mom. I have a praying family of all. And ever since I battled with the spirit of homosexuality, that has always been a major wedge in the relationship that I now have with my mom. And so remember, I said that I'm adopted, which means that my grandmother is now my mom. So when you hear me say mom, that's who I'm referring to. And so she is just like this older, really religious woman, went to church 3 times a week, twice on Sundays, just grew up in a church. She's very familiar with the Bible. That's how she was raised. She is rooted in the church. She's rooted in God. And so always, every time we would get into it, it would just be this reoccurring thing, right? And it was really about me choosing to live a lifestyle that she did not agree with. And every time she would try to bring me to scripture and tell me God is not pleased with this and God is not pleased with this, I'm like, girl, like bye. Like, I'm not trying to hear all that. And so it just makes me think about how I feel now, right? And how many times have I now tried to bring somebody the word of God and they're just like, Jordan, I ain't trying to hear all that. Like, I just don't care. Like, I'm not trying to hear it. I'm gonna do what I want to do. I'm gonna live how I want to live. Or they'll be like, well, I do love God, but then all of their actions are just contradictory to how God really tells us that he wants us to live, right? So anytime she came to me, that was my mindset, y'all. I was like, okay, it is what it is. So in those couple days, I started to read about God's original design for this earth. And that was the first time I ever felt convicted. And it was such a new feeling for me, guys, that how I feel when I feel convicted, it's like my chest gets tight. It's like, and it keeps replaying in my head. And so I'm like, what is this? What is this? What is this? I'm like, yeah, that was the first thing that God was like, we about to have to prune that. We about to have to get rid of that. Like, we cannot, we cannot have that. And so another thing that he showed for me was my sorority. And so I was a Delta. I was initiated in 2022. And like I said, that was something that God was like, we got to take that. Like, we can't have that, because you cannot serve 2 masters, y'all. And God does not like it. Actually, he despises it when we have idols. And I don't care. This is not a denouncement video. I done already made my post, but I'm just going to share that when you really give your life to God, you can't put nobody beside him, under him, above him, nowhere beneath him, or next to him, period. God is a jealous God. He wants to be the one that you pledge your mind, body, and soul to all of your love, okay? Not these sororities, not these false gods, the entities, these deities that are attached to these Greek letter organizations. That's not what God called for us to do, or to have, or to even be a part in. So like I said, that was another thing. Those were the big two things that immediately in January, when he told me your time is up and he was done playing around with me, he was getting ready to call me back for real this time. Those are the first two things that I battled with and had to give up. So another thing that I had to give up was sexual immorality. So that one wasn't really that hard for me, because I have been through so many I'm not gonna cry, but I have been through so many negative sexual encounters, you guys, that when it came to the idea of sex in itself, I was happy to give it up. I was like, look, like, I'm glad I don't have to give my body to nobody who don't love me, who don't care for me, who doesn't appreciate me. This is the only thing that they want me for, right, was my body. So I was just like, good, because I knew I needed to heal anyways. Like I said, unfortunately, I am a survivor of sexual assault, and I was sexually assaulted twice during my undergrad experience. And those really just changed my outlook about sex in general, you know. And it took me a while to really be able to come to terms about what happened to me, because it was just easier for me to just pretend like it never happened. And it was just easier for me to just be like, oh, you were drunk, you know, whatever, it's your fault, you know, just all the victim blaming things, that it was just easier for me to push it all the way back to the back of my mind. But it impacted me so much, and it made me hypersexual. It made me want to go out and seek and cultivate these, well, really fornicate with people who I knew did not have my best judgment or interest in mind, who truly did not care about me as a person, right? But I was using sex as a way to deal and as a coping mechanism, you know? And when God really sat me down, y'all, and he showed me just like how wounded I was because of sexual immorality, I was like, nah. I was like, I can't. Like, I have to give this up, and I have to let God help me to get over all of the judgment, the shame, the hurt, the trauma, the beliefs that I started to have about myself because of those things. So for my 23rd birthday, my birthday was March 28th, the day after I decided to go out and get a purity ring, and I'll insert the clip here. And when I got my purity ring, y'all, that was the second time I really felt like I felt God's presence really over me, and he was speaking to me, and he was telling me that he was pleased with my decision. So I feel like that was the second time I heard God really, you know, speak to me in you know, just so many different ways, right? So when it came to sexual immorality, we just really don't understand. Sex is never just sex. You are a vessel. You are opening yourself up to to so much when you decide to lay down and give your body to someone. Soul ties is a real thing. I don't know why people just say it to be cute and to be funny, but no, every single person you lay down with, you take a piece of them with you, and they take a piece of you with them. Soul ties is real. And the nature of my relationships, it was already so toxic in itself that only time we weren't butting heads is when we were doing those acts. That is not how God designed for us to conduct ourselves. That is not the relationship that God wants us to have. And that was another way that I just really noticed just how deep I was in the devil's grasp because of how I viewed relationships. I'm like, somebody be like, oh, I'm waiting for a kingdom marriage, a kingdom spouse. I'm like, who? Like, what they do? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I thought that it was normal to be in relationships where you guys are fighting and cursing each other out and there's no peace. And like I said, there's physical violence, there's emotional violence or abuse against you, mental abuse against you. I thought all that stuff was normal. I thought that it was normal to fly off the handle and say whatever and speak so negatively towards each other. I thought it was normal to not feel comforted in my emotions. I thought it was normal to really be like the provider, just keeping it honest. I've always been and had so much masculine energies in my relationships because I've never been with anyone who truly made me feel safe. And so I thought that that was normal. No, God does not call me to be a provider. I am a princess. Okay, because my father is a king, so that makes me a princess. You know, and so he just really had to go in and really just prune all of those behaviors, all of those mindsets, all of those ways, y'all. Because I'm going to be honest, I was toxic. Okay, and I used to pride myself on being toxic as well. And I also used to have a couple characteristics of a Jezebel. I used to pride myself on being able to invoke lust out of whoever I was with, right? I used to be like, oh yeah, if I want whoever, I can go get them. I didn't care if they had somebody or not. You know, I used to be that type of person to go out and have my breast showing, my butt showing, just everything the good Lord gave me out on display. And then I would wonder why people would approach me and they would only want to hop into bed with me. Nobody was leading me towards the kingdom, but they was leading me to the king size mattress though. You know what I'm saying? Like, so God really just, y'all, he started cleaning house. He started to clean house with me. And I think that took place really the first 3 months of the year. So from January, I'll even say April, he spent so much time with me. He literally separated me from everyone. When I say everybody, I didn't have that many friends left. I probably had about 15. By the time God got through pruning me, I think I had about 7. By the time I get to the end of the story, I'm probably only going to have about 1 or 2 that I'll speak about. You know, so he really separated me from everyone. And a major thing he had to separate me from was, once again, my sorority. Because nothing, anyways, that's not the video for that. So, like I said, I was definitely in sexual immorality very, very bad. And also I was exposed to corn at a very young age as well. So that further led me to develop these mindsets and these beliefs about how we're supposed to conduct ourselves in a sexual manner, how we're supposed to view sex. It was just really, really bad. So I was suffering from the spirit of lust, which had drained me of all hope of finding the person that God had created from me. I was dealing with the spirit of rejection, lots of sexual trauma, lots of Jezebel energy, like I said. So my identity of who I was, y'all, was literally just rooted in evilness at that point, just to be completely honest. I mean, I had some godly characteristics about me, but if anyone was to look at me 6 or 7 months ago, they would not be able to tell that I was a child of God. Because I was so loud in my sin. And I don't know why people think that it's okay to, just because you post 1 or 2 Bible quotes on Instagram every so often, did your real life resemble what you're posting? Like, does it? For me, the answer was no. For me, the answer was no. I would be posting these Bible quotes and then I go out and live a life that was completely opposite of what and who God created for me to be. So really, like I said, the first 4 months of the year, God was really working in me. He was pruning me. He was snatching me out of this, snatching me out of that. And it got to a point where the more I got into my Bible, the more I started to read about just who God was, you know, who Jesus was, how they conducted themselves, how they acted, how they spoke, the wisdom and maturity that they had. The more I was like, yeah, I'm trying to be like them. Like, I need them. God really broke me down to a point where it wasn't like I wanted him. It wasn't just like, okay, I'm gonna follow you just in hopes of you giving me the, you know, the person, the clothes, the cars, the whatever, the materialistic stuff. It was literally to a point where I was like, if I was to die right now, I know I'm going to hell. Yeah. That's how serious it was for me. I knew, and I confessed this to God. I said, I just thank you for keeping me. Oh Lord, I feel myself getting emotional. But I just thank you for keeping me here on this earth long enough for you to call me back to you, because if you would have ended my life any earlier, I was going to go to hell. That's just how sucked up in sin that I was. That's how tight me and the devil were. And so many people, yeah, the devil is a terrible being. He's terrible. But how many of us are like this? He's really our best friend and we don't even know it. He's really the person that we call on and we don't even see it. He's the person that gets all the glory through everything that we do and we don't even notice it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it was just, when God called me back, y'all, he was like, look, when I call you back, this is your last time. If you stray away from me again, I might just have to take my hands off of you. And that lit a fire under me. I literally went from cold to on fire in the span of like 5 months. I'm gonna say 6 because this is June and I'm still on fire. But that was such a big transition because people start to look at me crazy. Friends that I had turn their back on me. They would go and side with other things that other people were saying about me. You know, I felt alienated. I live in Michigan now. All of my family's back in Alabama. I'm up here by myself. I'm a full-time student. I don't have a community up here that is able to help me or support me in any way necessary. You know what I'm saying? Things that I was used to doing, the smoking, the drinking, the going out and letting loose, having, you know, crazy times. God took away my desire to do all that stuff. Everything that I used to replace God in my life, everything I idolized and put on a pedestal, God snatched it. Oop, give me that. I'm done playing with you. So when I tell y'all I am at the point in my life where I need him, because I know how it feels to be so far away from him, that period, I cannot afford to not have God in my life. Because even though I'm telling y'all, y'all will never truly understand just how far away I was. And I have attempted suicide, y'all, 5, maybe 6 times, maybe even 7. I can't really remember right now. But I have tried to end my life so much, so many times. And now I truly see why none of those attempts went through, because God had a greater calling for me. He had a greater purpose for me. All he needed me to do was just say, God, I do. I trust you. I'm ready. Not I'm fake ready. Not I'm finna be lukewarm. Not I'm saying yes to you, but I'm saying yes to everything else. But no, truly tell God I'm ready. And from there, y'all, things just took off. So I want to talk about spiritual warfare when it came to me giving up a lot of things in my life. So before I gave my life to Christ, spiritual warfare was not a thing that I resonated with. Like, yes, I would have tough times sometimes, but as soon as I would refill it with drinking and partying and sex and everything else, oh, I was back to normal. I was fine. So the fact that when I gave my life to Christ, just like I said, he stripped everything I used to use to put above him and to seek before I saw him, he stripped those things out. Ooh, hell was mad. As soon as I said, God, I surrender to you. I need you. I can't do this without you. I'm done trying to do it my way. Take over. Hell was pissed. Do you hear me? I started to go through so much spiritual warfare, y'all. It made my head swim. It made me overwhelmed. Like, I was just kind of like, wait. I gave my life back to God. What's going on? And I feel like that's what people don't talk to. They don't talk enough about this. People think that just when you give your yes to God, you're baptized or whatever it may be, that everything is just sunshine, peaches, and rainbows and flowers. Absolutely not. The devil comes for you 20 times harder. He sends his little, whatever you want to call them, his missionaries, whatever you want to call those things, and they possess people, they possess things, so they can get closer to you to knock you off track. So when it came to spiritual warfare, the first thing he sent my way was people, because like I said, I used to battle with anger, and I used to be very much pop off if you gonna jump off. However you want it, I'm gonna give it to you. I don't care if we talk after this. I ain't saying sorry for what I said to you, how I made you feel, put my hands on you, anything, right? But that was one of the first things when it came to emotions that God pruned from me, the spirit of anger. And he knew he had to do that because the things that he was about to call me to do, y'all.